Erin O'Toole wins the Conservative leadership race and reaches out to broaden the blue tent. Will it be enough to defeat Trudeau and the Liberals? Last weekend, new Conservative leader Erin O'Toole addresses his party after winning the leadership on the third ballot. But is that going to be enough to win the next election? Erin O'Toole, never heard of the guy. I thought it was actually a girl when I first heard it because he spells his name with an E-R-I-N, which is the feminine form, as opposed to the A-A-R-O-N. But hey, I'm not his parents. So in his speech, he was pretty upbeat, humble as he praised teachers and health workers, which everyone else is doing these days. And he's even promised to march in a pride parade. Though I don't know how that will help him win an election. Maybe it'll help him win Toronto, but that's about it. And in the earliest election scenario, we'll face a Liberal government that has been in office for 5 eventful years. So let's take a look at Mr. Erin O'Toole. And does he have what it takes? Because he is considered a fellow moderate. His goal, he said, was to take back Canada. From who, I'm not sure, but I have a couple of guesses. And he pledged to fight the radical left and cancel culture. I'm all for that. I have no sympathy for the Black Lives Matter or Antifa or anything like that, or all those social justice warrior nuts out there. Let's find out more about this guy. Okay, he was born in 1973, which means he's only going to be 40. He's only 47, so he's fairly young. Doesn't have one foot in the grave like Joe Biden. Joined the military in 1991 and attained a bachelor's degree in history, political science from the Royal Military College. Commissioned as a Canadian Forces Air Command, well, Royal Canadian Air Force now, as an air navigator, and advanced to the rank of captain. He's had active military service and then transferred in 2000 to the reserves and obtained a law degree from Dalhousie University. Practiced law for nearly a decade until he was elected a member of parliament for Durham in a by-election in 2012. So he won the by-election and he's won the next 2 elections. January 5th, 2015, with Harper, he was appointed Minister of Veteran Affairs. O'Toole prioritized repairing relations with veterans and addressing the complaints veterans had with the previous Veteran Affairs Minister. So this guy does have military experience, which is good. He does know the demands and needs of the Canadian military at this time, and pretty good with the veterans themselves. So he's got the requirements there. He's been in government before, and he's had an important role, and he's got military experience. See where he stands, though. So where does he stand? He previously supported maintaining funding for the CBC, but he currently supports defunding its digital operations and cutting in half funding for its English television operations with the goal of privatizing it by the end of his term. CBC is not the most popular TV network out there, but he will maintain funding for the CBC's radio operations. CBC radio is pretty good, actually. I like that. Proposes a $12 billion package to double down on the current government's Canada Child Benefit, increasing the benefit each quarter of the year until the end of 2021. He also wants to reduce and simplify taxes, arguing that a complicated tax system benefits the wealthy who can afford to easily find loopholes. As a lawyer, he probably had to find lots of those for clients. I agree with that. The tax system is way too complicated and should be simplified. Supports modifying Canada's equalization system, which he argues is unfair to Alberta. Was unfair to Alberta. Alberta's right now not doing so well, and they actually might need an unfair equalization system. Supports a full review of government spending and a program in which all new spending must be accompanied by an equivalent reduction. So if we spend in one area, we must reduce in others. Well, the way things are going, we can actually cut foreign aid completely and put it to where it's needed most. He's called for an incentive to reduce employment insurance premiums on small and medium-sized businesses paid for new employees. So anything under 50 employees. Sounds pretty good economically. Of course, every time you introduce something new, someone's going to have to pay for it down the road. Now, he did release his own post-pandemic recovery plan for the CCP virus. He promised to launch a royal commission on the issue within 100 days of taking office, stating that the big government strategy failed Canadians. What really failed Canadians was the fact that we didn't take it seriously quick enough and that the World Health Organization misled us, including our own Dr. Tam and Dr. Hilliard. He's proposed converting the existing child care expense deduction to a refundable tax credit and supports extending employment insurance for workers after the Canadian emergency benefit ends, which is going to be a problem because our national debt's going to skyrocket and probably be easily double what it is now, what it was before. Supports allowing provinces to scrap the carbon tax, calling it not an environmental plan but a tax plan. Completely agree. If anything, we should put a carbon tax on the countries that produce the most, such as China and India, and put it on their products coming into our country. This reminds me of the back in Mulroney when he had the GST tax. The idea of it was supposed to go towards paying off the national debt, but it never did. Instead, they use that money for other things. He proposed to put a tax on the industry alone and not on the consumer. Climate change is a global problem which requires a global solution. Supports ending Canada's energy imports from outside North America and helping oil companies become carbon neutral. The problem is it's actually cheaper to import gas than it is to dig it ourselves. Alright, let's see what he does with foreign policy issues. So he supports the Kanzuk Agreement, allowing freedom of movement between Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Hey, I'm all for that. I think we should have closer ties with the Commonwealth nations. Opposed tightening up foreign investment groups to deter state-owned companies from non-free countries from buying Canadian resources and companies unless there's a compelling reason to approve. So basically that's a shot at China and how most Chinese companies are state-owned. He supports getting tough on China. Hey, I like this guy even more. And banning Huawei from Canada's 5G networks. Meanwhile, the NHL is still showing Huawei commercials during hockey games. He supports meeting Canada's NATO commitments, so he's in favor of increasing our military. On immigration, he doesn't support a Canadian values test because it's so easy to pass that. And he opposes the Trump travel ban, claiming it provides a false sense of security. Okay. So pretty much I like what this guy's foreign policy has to entail. Now for social issues, he's pretty pro-choice and supports same-sex marriage. He'll hold free votes on social issues. No problems with those. Supports legislation which would allow healthcare practitioners to decline to offer treatment inconsistent with their religious or philosophical ideas. Not too sure I agree with that whole statement. Pledged to walk in pride parades as long as uniformed police officers could as well. Not sure what it has to do with anything, except for unless you're in Toronto. On gun rights, he wants to reverse the restrictions put in place by the Trudeau government. That's right, we shouldn't penalize legal gun owners and responsible gun owners. He voted against Bill C-14, so he's against assisted suicide and wants palliative care. That's a tough one. I had to go through that with my mother. He supported decriminalization of cannabis. As Trudeau's plan to legalize it would be impossible to reverse. But by and large, he's not exactly all conservative there. He's got some interesting ideas. Oh, and looking at this guy, he looks more the part. He looks tougher. Andrew Scheer looked too much like a Pillsbury Doughboy. And he definitely has more experience prior to coming into the government than Trudeau ever did. And hopefully he does what he says and takes a tougher stance on China. But anyway, any Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think of this guy. If there's anything bad about him. So far, he sounds pretty good. Couldn't do any worse than Trudeau at this point. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.